This video is going to deal with a bunch of different issues, mainly having to do with spacing. So if you can see, we're going to talk about our range, what kind of range you can use. We're going to talk about something called open and closed structure, spacing, and voice crossing. So first of all, the range that you can use. The bass is the low E, and when we get to the soprano, which I didn't write here, that's going to go up to the G. Now, I know some of you may be in choir, you can sing lower than the E, sopranos can sing higher than the G, but for our common practice and what we're doing, we want to keep within that range. So stay in there while you're doing your voice leading. Um, to memorize these, well, the bass, you're going one ledger line below and up, so you can remember it that way, and just remember the low E. Now, the rest of this, tenor starts on a C, a G, and a C. And if you notice, all three of these are an octave and a half. Okay, C to C, and then up to the G. G to G, there's your octave, and up to the D. C to C, then go up another fifth, and then you get up to your G. Okay, so that's one way to memorize this. Notice this. This is where you can get yourself in trouble a little bit. The tenor goes from here to this G, but the alto kind of coming down here. If you take a look at it, that G is actually this G in bass clef. So this range right here is kind of for both alto and tenor. And if you want to see it in treble clef, that would actually be this G right here. Think about it, the middle C. That's the E, the line below in treble clef. And that right there would be the second line. So that would be this G going down to the alto right here. So however you want to look at it, that range can be done by both the alto and the tenor. So you want to be careful because we're crossing staves. Be careful of voice crossing on that. What do I mean by voice crossing? Well, this all depends. Some of this depends on your teacher as well, just to let you know. There's a couple that are rules, and there's a couple things you want to stay away from. When you're writing your voices, you always want the bass to be the lowest note, and you always want the soprano to be the highest note. Don't let the alto jump over the soprano. Don't let the tenor dip below the bass. We want to keep the highest voice and the loudest voice very distinct. We also want to do that with the middle voices. Try not to cross them either. Now, some teachers will put it as a rule, but in common practice harmony, sometimes they do dip and cross a little bit. So that's something that most people consider to be not ideal, but not wrong either. So stay away from that. If you get in a problem where you get trapped in a corner and you're going to have a voice leading error and you don't really have any other choice, go ahead and cross them. It's going to be okay. But if you can avoid it, try to avoid it. Okay, so there's our range. There's our voice crossing. Now about spacing. When we're writing a chord, so here's a whole new topic right here. I'm going to move over here. If I'm going to go ahead and write a chord, I want to keep all my adjacent voices an octave or less in between them, with the exception of the bass to tenor. Bass and tenor can have whatever distance they want. So I'm going to go ahead and write an E major chord. So let's go all the way down here with the bass, E. It doesn't matter what I do with the tenor. So E, I'll go a G. Now I want an E and a B. So let's go ahead. Let me put my B here. E, G, B, and my E here. Great. That looks beautiful, doesn't it? It doesn't. Okay? Because if I take a look at this G right here, an octave above would be this G right here. I now have more than an octave between my tenor and alto. That's considered an error. Don't do that. So I have to voice this a little bit differently. So here, what I could do is I could just put my alto at the E, 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 G, B, and now I fixed it. Okay? So don't worry about bass to tenor. That can be whatever you want. But between tenor to alto and between alto to soprano, all those need to be within an octave. Okay? So that's spacing. Open and closed structure. This is not a rule, okay? This is just a way to think about writing. A closed structure basically means between your tenor and your soprano, you're within an octave. So just using that same example, sorry, I probably shouldn't have erased that. If I'm going to go E and I'm going to go a B, E, B, E, and G. That's a very, very close structure. Between here, we are within an octave. It's not wrong. The reason why you want to be careful, though, is it is a bit of a muddy sound when they're really close together. When you have it open up, Usually you can hear the lines a little more distinctly. So try to get there. If you notice that in your voice leading, it's starting to get closed, start using some contrary motion to start opening it up. It'll help you out a lot. The more closed your structure gets, now all of a sudden you're getting really tight on doing some voice crossing. And so you want to just realize you're getting to a closed structure and you want to start opening up again to maybe something like E, G, and maybe octave here, boom, and a C or something like that. So those are some options for more open voicing. So if we're talking about open closed structure, range, spacing, not having the octave in between, and voice crossing, not crossing the soprano and the bass, and trying not to do the inner voices, alto and tenor, you got it.